Hey guys, Chad Taverny here with Vantage Point Outdoors, and on today's video, I just wanted to share with you a few tips on some wintertime food plot work. Alright guys, like I mentioned, I just wanted to share with you a few things that you can do during the wintertime to work on your food plots to get you that much further ahead of the game come springtime. And one of the things that I like to do on my food plots during this winter time period where you can't do a whole lot else is I like to go in and use this time of year to go in and trim the edges of my food plots. And what I mean by that is I basically just go into my food plots and I take my chainsaw or my hand pruners, whatever I bring with me to the woods that day. But I like to just go in and cut back, maybe the last couple feet, the last couple edges of all the branches and sticks and tree trunks that come out into that are like on the edge of your food plot. If you clear those things out this time of year, you can really help prevent that summertime encroachment of that vegetation back into your food plot, which is going to limit the amount of sun that your food plot is going to get, and it can really rob your food plot of sun and those vital nutrients that your plants have got to have in order to excel. And one thing I've noticed over the years is that every growing season, every spring, every summer, the edges of that food plot, where basically the food plot ends and it turns back into brush or woods or whatever whatever you've got, but those plants on the edges, those trees and brush and stuff, they seem to want to grow inward. So those trees and stuff, they always want to grow back in towards your food plot. And if you don't trim those and keep knocking that back, over the course of a couple of years, you're going to lose, several feet of edge on your food plots, which is going to turn into, which could turn into, a quarter acre or half acre over several years if you don't cut that stuff back. So I like to get in there this time of year and basically just trim, a couple feet of the edge of all that edge habitat off the edge of your food plot, knock it back. And this is a great time of year, to get that done, because you don't have to deal with the leaves and all that on there, and you can see every individual branch and twig and stick you have to cut back. And then what I like to do is follow that up in the springtime is, well, up here in New York, up here in northern New York, we really start greening up around mid-May. So once I get to around that last week of May, I like to go in with my backpack sprayer and some glyphosate, and then I spray that that outer 2-3 foot of the edge of the food plot. I spray that with the glyphosate, and that just keeps all that edge habitat from growing and encroaching into your food plot. So that's one thing you can do, which can certainly help your food plots, and you can do that this time of year. The next thing I wanted to discuss is if you're just thinking about making a food plot and you want to make one this year, now is a great time of year to actually go in and make that food plot. You can go in there and cut your trees down, get those all limbed up and cleared out of your food plot, and you can basically get everything ready to go for springtime, so that once the springtime does come around, now you can focus on your fertilizing and getting the ground worked up and removing any tree stumps that you have to remove. And you can so you don't have to start the springtime doing all that manual physical grunt work. You can accomplish all that here during a good majority of it you can accomplish here during the winter months, and it'll put you that much further ahead of the game come springtime, and where you can focus on actually planting this food plot. So that's another thing that you can do. And another thing that you can do, and I wait until the absolute later stages of the winter. Again, just as a reference, I'm going to tell you what I do here up here where I live in northern New York. But once we get into mid-March, our winter, at least our snowpack, is really on its final legs. So what I like to do is from anywhere from mid-March through the first part of April, basically the last few weeks of your real hardcore winter, I like to go in and get a lot of my lime, put down. And yeah, I mean, if there's snow on the ground, I'll scatter my lime right out on top of the snow. And then, when that snow melts, it's gonna just, suck all that lime right down into the bare earth and help it get into the earth a little bit quicker. So you can also lime your food plots here during the wintertime. And I would recommend liming your food plots every single year, even if you've got a good soil pH and your food plot grew good the previous year. I would still recommend at least putting down some, maybe 100, 200 pounds per acre. Even if you have, good soil, keep it that way. Give it a shot of lime every growing season. That's another thing you can do here during the wintertime. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on in this video is, and I like to do it with my clover food plots, is I like to go in and frost seed. Now, what frost seeding is this is something that you do, and again, you want to wait until you get to that stage of the spring, the very early spring, when the ground is honeycombing. So basically, just as an example, you're into that time of year where the daytime highs are up into the mid-upper 30s, maybe low 40s, and that ground unthaws during the daytime, and it honeycombs. And then that night, the temperatures fall down to, below freezing, high 20s. That, that ground gets that, you get that like honeycombing effect of the soil, of the dirt. Well, that's the time of year you want to wait for to do your frost seeding. So basically, when you get to that phase of the winter where your daytime highs start breaking that freezing mark, and you start getting, 5, 10 degrees above freezing, but the nighttime lows are still dipping back down below freezing, that's a great time to go in there and basically just frost seed. Just go in there with a shoulder seeder and just broadcast your clover seed. Seed it down. And then over the next coming weeks, as that ground is honeycombing, thawing and freezing, and when you get any precipitation in the form of rain or even snow showers, those factors, those combinations are going to help suck that seed right down to bare soil and get it into the soil. So this way here, when spring green up starts rolling around, your clover seeds are already in the dirt, they're already germinated, and they're already starting to grow, and they're getting a head start over all the weeds and grasses that are going to be competing with them. So it's a great way to get your clover food plots off to an awesome start. So that's just a few tips I wanted to share with everybody on some work that you can do on your food plots even during the winter time. As always, I want to thank you for tuning into the show, and I will see you next time right here on the VPO Minute.